welcome to Mjtv Global News, informative news with a global perspective. My name is Natasha Johnson.
And I'm Steve Moore. And in this evening's news, we have an exclusive where a wrongly convicted man, 51 years old, spent 24 years in prison, but was released by Brooklyn prosecutors. Jonathan Fleming has always maintained that he was in Florida during the 1989 shooting death of Darrell Rush in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And new evidence supports his claim. A recent investigation also confirmed that the key witness, a crack addict who later said she was pressured by police, who dropped a felony charge against her and was arrested the night of the shooting. Brooklyn prosecutors are slated Tuesday to set free a man who spent more than 2 decades in prison, the latest in a spate of conviction reversals. The murder conviction of Jonathan Fleming, 51, will be tossed following a reinvestigation of the August 1989 slaying that landed him in prison for over 24 years. Fleming has always maintained he was in Florida when Darrell Rush was shot dead in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And now the new evidence backs him up. The authorities may now go after the true gunman, sources say. And he's elated after all these years. He's in an amazing place right now, says his attorney. The key witness against Fleming was a crackhead who recanted after his trial, saying she was pressured by cops who dropped a felony rap against her after she identified Fleming as the killer. But a judge brushed that aside, letting stand the verdict of a jury that did not buy the defendant's alibi offense. A recent investigation unearthed the police report that confirmed the woman's arrest that night and the charge dismissal. Prosecutors who started looking into this case after Mayo approached them in June were also given a telephone receipt that showed Fleming was in Orlando hours before the shooting. Fleming, again who was sentenced to 25 years to life, was eligible for parole later this year. Mayo lauded district attorney investigators and a new administration was consented to his client's release. But DA Kenneth Thompson, who took office at the start of this year, had already agreed to release 2 men who were doing time for triple murder and has dropped an appeal relating to a 3rd convict who was freed by a federal judge. These cases, as well as Fleming's, are not connected to the tainted detective Louis Scarcella, whose questionable tactics have led to an unprecedented review of some 50 cases. Also Monday, Thompson appointed Harvard law professional Ronald Sullivan to lead the effort by heading the Conviction Review Unit, which has been revamped. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. Greece, at risk of crashing out of Eurozone just 2 years ago, will issue its first sovereign bond in almost 4 years on Thursday, seeking to send a strong political and economic signal that it is on its way out of debt. International banks have been mandated to sell the benchmark 5 years euro-dominated bond under British law, said the country's finance ministry. The sale is an important milestone for one of Europe's most troubled economies. The last time it sold bond as opposed to a very short-term paper was back in March of 2010. Greece has been kept afloat by 218 billion euros of European Union International Monetary Fund bailout money and about 15 billion euros of treasury bills. Athens has no pressing funding needs but wants to test the waters for more and bigger bonds. Sales in the future as part of the strategy to cover all of its funding needs from the market by 2016. Athens originally planned to tap bond markets in the second half of the year after more tangible evidence that its ongoing 6-year recession is over. But rapidly falling bond yields and pressure to produce an economic success before the European Parliament elections in May have persuaded the Prime Minister and his fragile coalition government to bring the sale forward. Greece's debt currently stands at 320 billion euros. But despite its size, the country's debt is attractive to investors because of 2012 reconstruction has made it sustainable for 10 years, the head of Eurozone Rescue Fund said. About 80% of Greece's debt is in the hands of European Union and the International Monetary Fund at very low interest rates and on a long repayment schedule. Public anger about the economic pain is still running high in Greece, which has seen unemployment soar to nearly 28% and almost a quarter of whose economy was wiped out in the recession. But economic data released last Wednesday added to evidence that its economy is bottoming out after 6 years of recession that wiped up almost a quarter of its gross domestic product. To you, Steve.
Thank you, Natasha. In Los Angeles police officers removed antennas from police cars in several predominantly black neighborhoods to disable the recording equipment and avoid being monitored while on duty, according to an inspector with the LAPD investigators. The department review found about half of the 80 cars in the Southwest Division, which includes Watts and the Jordan Downs and Nickerson Garden housing projects, were missing antennas that help capture what officers say in the field. The review discovered at least 10 more cars in nearby divisions also had antennas removed. Members of the police commission, which oversees the department, said they were alarmed by both the actions of the officers and the failure of the department to reveal their actions when they were first detected. Members of the police commission also said, on an issue like this, we need to be brought in right away. The equipment is for the protection of the public and the officers, and to have people who don't like the rules to take it upon themselves to do something like this is very troubling. But LAPD Chief Charlie Beck said the department did not purposely try to hide the matter from the commission and pointed out that he has always been a strong advocate of recording devices. LAPD officials decided it would be futile to try to figure out which officers were responsible for removing the antennas, since so many of them have used the cars during their shifts. Instead, the department warned officers about removing the antennas and put checks into place to account for the equipment at the start and end of each patrol shift. Now, one of the main reasons a federal judge agreed to lift the Department of Justice oversight on the notoriously corrupt LAPD last year, after more than a decade, was because of safeguards such as the cameras. The cameras turn on automatically whenever an officer activates the car's emergency lights and sirens, or can be activated manually, and they are used to record traffic stops and other encounters that occur in front of the vehicle. In addition, officers wear small transmitters on their belts that relay their voices back to the antennas in the patrol car. And Sergeant Dan Gomez, a department expert on recording devices, told the Times that regardless of whether they're in front of the camera, officers' voices can be recorded hundreds of yards away from the car, but that distance is severely curtailed by as much as a third without the antennas. We'll be right back after these messages.
Say you're down, you want to cry. Let me give you good advice. Hold your head up and just tell the blues bye-bye. Hold your head up and say bye-bye to the blues. Say you lost your job, can't pay your rent because all your money's spent. Dry your eyes, yes, dry your weeping eyes.
welcome back to Mjtv Global News. My name is Natasha. Less than half of Brazilians favor of nations hosting of World Cup in June, with the majority in the soccer-crazed nation believing that the tournament will do more harm than good, a poll showed on Tuesday. Just 48% of the Brazilians supported hosting the event, down from the 52% back in February. The approval rate has dropped from a high 79% in November, 2008, a year after Brazil was selected amid cost overruns, deadly construction accidents, and concern that the delays in building stadiums and airports in 12 cities could embarrass the country on an international stage. The result is surprising for the soccer-loving nation that has won 5 World Cup titles, more than any other country. Brazil last hosted the tournament in 1950. In a similar survey in June, in the midst of a massive street protest calling for better transportation and less corruption, 44% said that the games will bring more harm than benefits. Pessimism over the World Cup has increased even as Brazilians have largely abandoned their street protests. Another poll found that most Brazilians believe that billions of dollars spent on the event should be directed elsewhere, such as towards healthcare and education. To you, Steve.
Thank you, Natasha. And in Gwinnett County, Georgia, a 48-year-old woman was running a brothel from her Gwinnett County apartment. Loris Marisol Padilla allegedly used the internet to lure customers to the Norcross area apartment, according to arrest warrants obtained by the news. Inside, Padilla was forcing 5 women to work 7 days a week as sex slaves. An undercover operation along the Homeland Security led police to the 5 alleged victims, and Padilla was arrested. She was charged with 5 felony counts of sex trafficking, 5 counts of pimping, and numerous charges related to running a prostitution business. Gwinnett County jail records show that Padilla was arrested Wednesday and was being held without bond, according to last night. Neighbors said that they were shocked to learn what was allegedly happening inside the apartment off Dawson Boulevard. That's really crazy, actually, to know people who actually force other people to do that, said Jasmine Ramos. But a spokesman for a faith-based organization working to fight human trafficking said it is happening more often than many realize, especially here in the Atlanta area. We need to make sure that people know that this is going on so they can identify it and so they can stop it, Whitney Baxley said. This is happening on the web where a picture is posted and people call in. Management at the apartment complex said it is cooperating with the investigation and they have begun eviction processes. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. Prisoners in the jails of Uruguay will be able to use marijuana if a doctor says it will benefit their health. Uruguay's drug czar Julio Calzada told the Associated Press on Tuesday that any inmates with doctor's orders will be prescribed marijuana to improve their physical or mental health. Meanwhile, Social Development Minister told a medical marijuana symposium that medicinal pot will be incorporated into the country's public health system alongside acupuncture and homeopathic remedies. Mr. Calzada says his agency needs 2 more weeks to complete the regulations for government's legal marijuana market, which he now expects to issue between April 20th and 25th. He says the actual rollout won't be until the end of this year. To you, Steve.
Thank you. In San Francisco, suspended state Senator Leland Yee pleaded not guilty on Tuesday to bribery and gun charges 2 weeks after he was arrested as part of an FBI sting targeting political corruption and alleged organized crime syndicate based in San Francisco's Chinatown. Now, Yee entered his pleas in federal court to 1 count of conspiracy to traffic in firearms without a license and illegally import firearms, 1 count of conspiracy to defraud citizens of honest services, and 6 counts of engaging in a scheme to defraud citizens of honest services. The San Francisco Democrat is accused of conspiring to connect an undercover FBI agent with a Philippine arms dealer in exchange for campaign contributions and of trading political influence for cash. Yi, who is free on $500,000 bail, has been suspended from the legislature, and he and his wife, Maxine, signed over their San Francisco home on Tuesday as collateral for the bail. The Yis and the Senator's attorney, Jim Lassard, declined to comment outside court, while other lawyers representing defendants in this case have argued that their clients were unfairly lured into the FBI sting by undercover agents who initially proposed much of the alleged wrongdoing. Tony Serra, a lawyer of Raymond Shrimp Boy Chow, the leader of Chinatown organization, the FBI says, is a front for organized crime. The government financed the crime, he said. Law enforcement is supposed to investigate crime and criminal activity. In the case, they created crime and criminal activity. This is political, and Chow is truly an innocent person. Chow remained in jail on charges that include money laundering, receiving stolen property, and he didn't enter a plea Tuesday, but Yi's campaign consultant, Keith Jackson, pleaded not guilty to murder for hire, corruption, and conspiracy and firearms trafficking charges, and he is free on $250,000 bond. Some 29 suspects were indicted last week after 20 people, including Yi, Chow, and Jackson, were arrested on March 26. Several others have been arrested outside California and will have to appear in court in San Francisco at some point. Now, authorities say Jackson served as a middleman between Yi and the crime syndicate and helped funnel cash to the politician in exchange for political influence. At the time, Jackson was working for Yi, and Jackson also was serving as a consultant to the Chinatown organization Gi Kong Tong, the FBI claims. The Tong held itself out as a civic booster and a community helper. However, the FBI alleges it was a front for the headquarters of the crime syndicate led by Chow. Yi, Jackson, and Chow, and most of the other defendants were ordered back to court on Friday for their first appearance before U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer, who will preside over the case through the trial. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. Now we're going to commercial. We'll see you right back.
Are you looking for that special treasure? Stop by Airport Antiques Gallery, an upscale, one-stop shopping experience. We feature some of the finest antique furniture, art, and collectible treasures from around the world. Airport Antiques and Eclectic Treasures provides professional auction and estate services for your personal valuables. We turn your treasures into... Located at 3440 Lang Avenue, Hapeville, Georgia. We are waiting for your call, 404-530-3930. That's 404-530-3930. Airport Antiques and Eclectic Treasures.
Hello and welcome back.
We've lost another great jazz musician. Wayne Henderson, the trombonist and co-founding member of the popular jazz funk band, the Jazz Crusaders, later known as the Crusaders, died Friday, April 4th in Culver City, California. The cause of his death was heart failure, and according to the Crusaders manager, Henderson was 74 years old. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. In the next month, Kwasi Inen must make the decision of which 8 Ivy League schools he should attend this fall. A first-generation African-American from Shirley, New York. He's a 17-year-old violinist and an aspiring physician. He applied to all Penn, Cornell, Yale, Princeton, Brown, Harvard, Dartmouth, and Columbia universities. The feat is extremely rare, says college counselors, for few students even apply to all 8 because each seeks different qualities in their freshman class. Almost none are invited to all of them. Ivy League colleges are among the nation's most elite. For most of the 8 schools, acceptances comes rarely even among the U.S. top students. At the top end, Cornell University admits only 14% of its applicants. Harvard just accepts 5.9%. Application pools these days skew heavily towards girls. The U.S. Department of Education estimates that females comprise 57% of the college students in degree-granting institutions last year. Colleges, especially the elite ones, are struggling to keep male and female ratios even, so admitting academically gifted young men like Enan gives them an advantage. He ranks number 11 in a class of 647 at William Floyd, a large public school on Long Island's South Shore that puts him at the top 2% of his class. His SAT score at 2,250 out of 2,400 points puts him in the 99th percentile for African American students. His parents, which immigrated to New York from Ghana in the 1980s, studied at public colleges nearby and are both nurses. So congrats to you.
Congratulations. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hey, babe, you see my keys? Can't find my keys. Oh, there they go. Be in the corner right quick. I'll be back. Yeah. In the corridors of my mind, I imagine what the road of life will be like.
Welcome back, and now we'd like to go to the weather. And it looks like that old man winter is finally gone. In Atlanta, today we're at a nice, comfortable 66 degrees. And precipitation's at 10%, and the humidity is at 47, with the winds about 17 miles per hour, a little rough. Hollywood, California, they're at 88 degrees. Their precipitation is 0. Their humidity is 28%, and their low wind at 7 miles per hour. Chicago, Illinois, they are partly cloudy at 57 degrees. Their precipitation is 0. Humidity is 52%, and their winds are coming out at 16. In Detroit, Michigan, they have a nice, clear, sunny day. They're at 48 degrees. Their precipitation's at 0. Humidity is 54%, with their winds coming in at 9 miles per hour. In New York, they're partly cloudy, 59 degrees. Precipitation at 10%. Humidity at 36, and they have a gusty 14 miles per hour wind. In Vienna, Austria, partly cloudy, 55 degrees. Precipitation 0. Humidity 42%, and their wind is at 19 miles per hour. Havana, Cuba, partly cloudy, 79 degrees. Precipitation is at 0. Humidity 55%, and their wind is at 14 miles per hour. Maputo, Mozambique, they have rain and 81 degrees. They're at 50% precipitation, 60% humidity, and their wind is at 10 miles per hour. Istanbul, Turkey, nice and sunny, 63 degrees. Precipitation at 0. Humidity at 58%, and their wind is at 7 miles per hour. Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, Rainy, 90 degrees, precipitation 50, humidity 64%, and their wind is at 9 miles per hour. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. We have another student, which 5 of America's most prestigious universities are fighting for this 17-year-old who was born and raised in D.C. area, typically characterized for its neglect, proving difficult circumstances can't keep you from being in an Ivy League material. Avery Coffey has been accepted to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Brown, and the University of Pennsylvania, a feat difficult for any high school senior to achieve no matter where he's from, he or she is from. The high school senior is poised to graduate from Benjamin Baker Academic High School, an institution known for its exceptional track record with college acceptance rates. The school has had a perfect track record of 100% acceptance for every graduating class since 1984. When asked by Fox News what his dream job would be, he said he hopes to be a CEO of an investment or management consulting firm overseeing Fortune 500 companies. Coffey said he doesn't see his background as a barrier to ultimately gaining a position of influence in the world. He wants other young people to know that too. You can find his story and other stories of amazing young people on our website at www.mjt on Facebook.
Thank you, Natasha. Now, I always like to end our broadcast with funny news stories. I have 3 short ones. The first one. Now, everyone knows in the criminal justice system, there are 2 separate but equal important groups: the attorneys who prosecute or defend people accused of crimes, and the crooks themselves, some who are really stupid. These are their stories. A young man, whose name we won't use to protect the guilty, was on trial for attempted murder. The detective on the case was called to the stand, and the prosecutor asked him what happened. The detective said the victim appeared to have been shot 3 times. The defendant, who had not pleaded guilty, turned to his attorney and in a loud voice said, "He's lying. I only shot him twice." The attorney said, "Will you shut up?" But it was too late. His client was convicted. What did the defendant, aside from being blatantly stupid, what he actually did was shoot the victim twice, but because of an exit wound, there were 3 bullet holes. I think the defendant has a hole in his head, actually. Now, a lingerie store is now accepting food stamps for edible underwear. Kiss My Lingerie, a specialty adult shop in Gonzales, Louisiana, has posted a sign on its front door indicating that it accepts most credit cards and EBT cards. The owner began accepting EBT about 8 months ago because she didn't want to discriminate. And last but not least, Texarkana, Texas. A Texas woman who complained to police that a drug dealer sold her a bad batch of marijuana did not pack much of a punch, and she was arrested. Evelyn Hamilton was jailed on Friday after telling police in Lumpkin, Texas, that the dealer refused to give her a refund. She was later released on $500 bail for drug paraphernalia charge. She had in her possession a bag with a small amount of pot, and the person Hamilton said was the dealer, he hadn't been arrested, but we had no actual link to him, Detective Casper said. A day after her release, the woman was again taken into custody, this time on a public intoxication charge. She was allegedly yelling in the street when officers arrested her. And Hamilton naturally couldn't be reached for immediate comment. And thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Steve Moore.
I'm Natasha Johnson, and thank you for watching MJTV, Global News, informative news with a global perspective. Have a good evening.
Be safe.
Skylark, have you anything to say to me? Won't you tell me where my love can be? Is there a manhole in the mist where someone's